We are recording and we are good to go. Let me just grab my notes here. Welcome to HRAI's Masterclass Stress-Free HVAC System Sales. We have David Holt, who's going to introduce a simple framework that turns HVAC system replacement into a clear, comfortable decision for homeowners. He's going to join us in just one moment, but I just want to go through a couple housekeeping items. First of all, thank you so much for joining. We love a live audience. But if you're watching this on YouTube's on our HRAI YouTube page, that's also good. Please feel free to share and you can have a look at all the other webinars up there as well. We're going to be taking questions. Those will be saved to the end. You can put your question in the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen or in the chat. Either way, we'll find it and we will answer as many as we can. So without further ado, one more thing. You're going to receive, if you're watching this live, you're going to receive a poll at the end. Just letting us know how you thought of the presentation, maybe suggestions for future presentations. And hey, if you want to be the person up here educating HRAI members, please reach out and we can set something up. Anyways, that's my spiel. I'm going to introduce David Holt now, who's going to take it away. David, please join us. There he is. There's
There
the
he
man.
is. So, welcome, HRAI. Happy to participate in this cool opportunity to educate the HVAC industry above the line between Canada and the US. I'm actually a US based kind of guy, so been up there many times in the past. I've actually, I guess my first time up in Canada was about 1984. It was the first time I was up there working in a software business that's right there, had a regional office right there in Toronto. And actually have an aunt who lives in Ajax on the east side of Toronto. So we have a lovely affinity for Canada and look forward to helping you guys with what we can. So I'm going to start out speaking of family. I went ahead and inserted a little slide in this presentation to talk a little bit about my family history. On March 16th, 1956, my grandfather in that picture, Ralph Holt, started a heating and air business. Yes, that's in his backyard. Yes, that's truck number one. Yes, that's employee number one. And yes, that is shop number one. That's in the backyard of the house that my father was born in, actually, in 1935. My dad is the oldest of five kids. And my grandfather, bless his heart, as we say down here, my grandfather was working for another contractor. He also worked for a local utility company. He was a gas guy back in the day and decided one day on March 15th, 1956, he was tired of working for other people and wanted to work for himself. He wanted the freedom to be able to do what he wanted to do when he wanted to do it. He wanted to make all the money. And probably within about a week, he figured out, uh-oh, there's a whole lot more to running a business than there is to running a service call. He never ran a business before. He'd always worked with somebody else operating tools, right? Tools in his hands, wrenches in his hands, doing that stuff. Never bought an advertisement for his businesses that he was working for, never hired anybody for the businesses he was working for. He didn't really have a lot of experience on operating a business. He had an operating family, five kids, pretty good number. Actually, employee number two, who was an indentured servant, that would be my grandmother. She didn't get paid because Pop said, hey, it's all going in the same checkbook, right? Um, Employee number two, if you will, is taking that picture. That's right there on the back porch of her kitchen, actually. Over to the right is 40 years later. So in 40 years, we grew it to a pretty good sized business. So that was about maybe a 200 square foot building behind him. The building behind those trucks, you're not getting a good picture of it here, is 26,000 square feet. That's seven of our nine service trucks that we had in 1996. I was the president of the company. I was the third president of the company at that time. About 3 years later, we sold the business to a company that thought the business was worth more than my dad thought it was worth. He was the owner. And dad sold the business in 99. And I've been out doing coaching, training, and consulting ever since. So things I'm going to talk about today are things that I've actually done. I've actually been involved in this trade really my whole life. I was born in 1958. So if the company was in the family in 56, it beat me by 2 years. So let's get started, shall we? So this program, Stress-Free HVAC Selling, is all about understanding that broken HVAC equipment leads to stress for everyone. If you think about it, right? The homeowner's stressed, or in this case, we got a little picture of an office scene where the mini split has blown up. The homeowner's under stress, they're uncomfortable, It's an unplanned expense. There's so many things going on. There's a pretty good amount of stress when we talk about that kind of lead. And most technicians, because if it's broke, usually the technician's the first person to go. They're the first responders, right? Most technicians struggle with being a salesperson, and rightfully so. I mean, I think sales is a great profession. I did it. I still do it today. I don't do HVAC system sales, but I do teach people how to communicate with homeowners in a way that reduces stress and helps the homeowner comfortably make a decision to buy from you. Right? That's really what I do a lot of. And I love it because when we can help homeowners invest the right amount of money for the right products, they win, you win as a contractor, your distributor wins, your manufacturer wins. It's just a win all up and down the chain there. So we have to understand though that most technicians who are really again the first responders have a hard time kind of positioning themselves as a salesperson. Like I had service techs that all the time you say, if I wanted to be a salesperson, I'd be a salesperson. I want to be a service tech. I want to fix stuff. I understand 100%. In fact, there's nobody on the planet that's more credible than a service tech in the eyes of the homeowner. We'll talk about that here in just a minute. Well, if we go from an emergency replacement kind of situation to a planned upgrade kind of situation, that actually reduces stress for everyone. I mean, think about it. If you have a planned upgrade of a system instead of a wait until it breaks emergency situation, people can plan their vacation time or their paid time off if they need to get off work to allow you to do the work. You can get the right equipment at the right time in the right place with the right people if we can plan it. A lot of times when it's urgent, we have to do things that we'd rather not do. Like sometimes, maybe we have to pull a service tech in to do an emergency install. Well, that's okay, but if service techs are service techs and they're not installers, sometimes the installation doesn't go quite as well as it does when a full board installer is doing a job. So if we can schedule things, if we can plan it, that's another beautiful thing is we can schedule it, and the customer is not out as much. They're not down as far as comfort level, right? We can keep them comfortable pretty quick, assuming we can get the system upgraded, in a reasonable amount of time. So planned upgrades are definitely going to reduce stress. And again, I said this a minute ago, technicians are absolutely the most trusted advisor on your team. How do I know that? I mean, it's not just like something I read in a book. I learned it firsthand. My grandfather, again, was not very creative. He said, Holt Service Company is the name of our company. So I had a logo on my shirt that said Holt. I had my name over here. It said David. If I showed my business card, it said David Holt. They were like, oh, here's an owner, right? Well, if one of my service techs, and I'll pick Herbert as my service tech, he was one of the best communicators that we had as service tech. When Herbert told Mrs. Smith, all you need is a furnace, Mrs. Smith. And then David comes in as the comfort advisor, me go in as the comfort advisor with full authority of the family, right? From a strategic standpoint. I could not blow, I could not say anything to change Mrs. Smith's mind when Herbert said, all you need is a furnace. And all you need is this cheap furnace, right? It made me recognize that Herbert, who was not a family member, Herbert, who was a very good service tech, very, very, I mean, he's well spoken, he very technically competent, he was always looking out for the customer's benefit. When Herbert said something, his credibility exceeded mine. Because again, Mrs. Smith, no, Herbert said this is all I need to do. This is what I'm going to do. So it made me start thinking. I said, if Herbert says something, it's gospel. It's the truth. It's absolutely without error, right? If Herbert says something, we better make sure Herbert says the right something, right? And so we did some training and we got Herbert saying some of the right stuff. And that's part of what we're going to be teaching you today. So education, and this is kind of the overview of what we're trying to do. We're really trying to focus on how does education of the homeowner, but also of your crew. How does education lead to confidence and better stress-free outcomes, right? How do we work ourselves into a position where the customer, the homeowner, and I'm going to talk mostly about residential in this case, but it's true even for commercial, just a little different nuances on the commercial side. I did both. But when we can help that homeowner be in a stress-free environment, we reduce the level of stress and anxiety that they're having in the moment. Things go much better for everyone. It goes better for the homeowner. It goes better for the technician or salesperson, goes better for your company, goes better for your distributor, and goes better for your manufacturer that you're representing. So let's dive into this. So these are this is like why does HVAC sales feel so hard, right? Well, there's a lot of common frustrations that contractors experience. I know I experienced them firsthand myself. I'm giving quotes, but I'm not closing enough of them, right? So if you give 10 quotes, how many quotes are turning into actual jobs? Well, depends on the lead source. It depends on the lead source. So if you're dealing with SEO, search engine optimization leads, and it's the first time caller kind of thing where this homeowner has never used you before, you have no relationship with them. Quite honestly, if you get 3 out of 10 on that, you're probably you're probably going to Cooperstown if you're a baseball player, right? If you bat 300 in a baseball game or in a baseball career, you're probably going to be in the you're probably going to be in the Hall of Fame, right? So 3 out of 10 for a non-customer lead type, it's probably pretty darn good, quite honestly, but also pretty darn frustrating. So if the majority of your leads are coming from marketed leads where you have no relationship with the customer, you are automatically in a high stress situation because they don't know you, you don't know them, they don't trust you, you hope to trust them, right? And remember this, the first 3 letters of the word contractor are CON, con. I'm not saying you're a con. I'm just saying that's what the customers are thinking because they've heard horror stories. They've seen it on the news where they do sting operations where people make one little wire disconnected and all of a sudden you need to replace your whole system. Hmm. Never seen that before. I've seen it before, and it's not pretty. And it reflects on all of us as professional contractors when things like that happen. And they do. Well, that's what homeowners come in thinking about. So you're giving quotes, but you're not closing enough of them. The number one cause of that actually is the lead type. What's the source of the lead? I know this to be true because in our business, about 99% of our leads came from our existing customer base because we had 3,500 maintenance agreements. And those 3,500 maintenance agreement customers, even though we were maintaining the equipment properly, old equipment wears out, right? It wears out internally and it's time to upgrade. Well, the good news is when you have those kind of leads, we were closing 82% of our opportunities. Now, that may sound impressive, but think about this as an owner. If you're the owner of the company, that means 18% of your customers didn't choose you. I'm getting nervous about that. You're like, what the heck? Why did we lose 18% of our customers? Well, we didn't lose them. It's just we were giving them a quote when their system was actually still functioning. They just chose not to do it right now. We were giving them quotes in anticipation of upgrading their system. That's one way to reduce stress. Remember, I talked about scheduling? That's a great way to do it. But another frustration contractors hear it all the time. I hear it from people all the time. Everything turns into a price comparison. No doubt. The problem is most homeowners have no earthly idea what they're comparing one thing to the other. Oh, they both say 3-ton heat pump. Okay. So there's a pretty big range of 3-ton heat pumps from a 14.3 SEER to a full stack inverter, buzz, you know what I'm saying. There's a big difference between A and a B, right? So they're comparing apples and oranges, but they don't even know because they don't know what we know. Now, I'm not suggesting that you should educate them to the extent that we can talk about things as contractors, but I am hoping that you're able to educate people to understand the difference between your offer and all others. right? And we'll talk about that here in just a minute. But if it just comes down to a price comparison, there's a fairly good chance that the value that you're offering has not been clearly expressed by your team. They don't, the homeowner does not understand why they should invest more with you. Well, that's on you as a company, right? You got to make sure that you're educating them properly. We're going to get to that in a minute. Customers do not understand the value, which is exactly what I was just saying. Customers, if they don't understand the value, if all things appear to them to be equal, well, you do the same thing. You would go with the lowest price because if all of them appear equal, why would you spend more? Just for the sake of spending more? I mean, that doesn't really make sense from a mental standpoint, from a homeowner perspective. If all things are considered and all things appear equal to them, and your price is $10,000 and the other prices are $7,000, I like you a lot, but $3,000, really? Hmm. um, 3 ton, 3 ton. Got an air filter, got an air filter. Got a thermostat, got a thermostat. Hmm. Hmm. What would you do? Well, clearly, if you're not able to differentiate your offer from the others, homeowners are doing what homeowners would do, and they're doing the same thing you would do too. Be honest, right? What we got to do is we got to figure out, well, how do we take this awesome opportunity to keep people's homes safe, healthy, comfortable, and efficient? How do we take that opportunity and turn it into a gold mine for us, but also a gold mine for the homeowner? This is another frustration I hear a lot from contractors. I spend way too much time putting out quotes that go nowhere. I actually heard that directly from my dad. When I first went to work for my dad in 1991, a long time ago, when I first went to work for my dad, I said, well, what kind of challenges are we having that I need to think about? He says, well, I am tired of giving out free quotes and going nowhere. I mean, that's almost word for word exactly what he said. So again, this is written based on personal experience. I am so tired of us busting our butt doing the engineering. We used to do manual J, manual Ds. We do the load calcs. We do everything that we need to do to make sure that we were making the right recommendation. And then our competition would get a hold of our proposal and they'd match it with a lower price. They'd say, I'm doing exactly what they're saying, but I'm going to give you a $500 less price. Well, if I was a contractor in my market, I would have done that too. I mean, well, I wouldn't have, but that's a good strategy because they knew that we were doing the design work that needed to be done. And right, wrong, or indifferent, we turned that design work over to the customer without them saying yes. Think about that. You did all the engineering, you did all the design work, and you turn that design work over to the customer without them saying yes. We always told them that's part of our job is to do that. We're going to do that design work, and you're going to get a copy of it upon signature that you want us to do the work. Right? Because we're not doing this work anymore for free. Dad was doing it for free. I said, yeah, no, it's included in the job. We're not charging extra for it. It's included in the job, and you will get the engineering data. You will get the diagram. You will get all this as a part of our package. Oh, okay. We just weren't going to give it to our competition, right? It's little simple things like that make all the difference. I hate feeling like a salesperson, right? A lot of people in the contracting business hate feeling like a salesperson. Well, guess what? Don't feel like one then. Feel like an educator. Feel like a consultant. Feel like someone who's, I always love to think about it as these homeowners are in a deep, dark cave, right? They don't know what the heck is going on. How many times did they buy a heating and cooling system? It's not very often, right? Not something they were really planning for if you wait for it to break. If we can get into the mindset of upgrading in advance of breakage, changes that dynamic a lot. But still recognize the majority of leads that people run in our industry, the customer is in crisis mode. That's stressful. Remember, we're trying to talk about stress free. I'm a laid back guy. I like to be stress free. I don't like stress. Stress messes with your heart. Um, so don't feel like a salesperson by being not a salesperson. Be an educator, be a consultant, be a guide. Again, like getting into this dark cave of I'm buying this heating and cooling system. I got this dark cave. I really, really, really want to be that person who can be the guide in that cave. I want to have the flashlight and I want to be able to show them how to step and where to step and do what needs to be done to get into the cave, explore the cave, and come out and still be alive, right? Same kind of thing here from an HVAC standpoint. Homeowners don't know the process for buying a heating and cooling system. If we reduce it down to get three bids, which our industry actually does, unfortunately, train a lot of people to do that, and so do the utility companies. It seems like the right thing to do, except to get three bids that are the same as a good quality bid, you'd have to probably talk to 30 people to find three more or two more that actually know what to do. Like, are they straightening out the ductwork? Is the ductwork on a ducted system? Is the ductwork actually capable of doing the thing it was designed to do? My experience on both sides of the country lines, right? On in Canada, in US, my experience has been all over North America that most duct systems are incapable of doing the thing that they're designed to do. It's just reality. So if you're not looking at that, something's missing. And that's one huge way to differentiate your business. So why do homeowners struggle to make decisions? Right? That's the contractor perspective. We're struggling with frustrations associated with all the stuff I just mentioned. Why do homeowners struggle to make HVAC decisions? Well, it's pretty simple. Number one thing is high cost, and it's an unexpected cost. They have a low understanding of what they're buying. It's not like buying a gallon of milk, right? They don't understand what it is. They get all kinds of different things in their face all the time, like that little newspaper, Columbus utility prices spike. Oh my gosh, wait, my power bill is already $600 a month and prices are going to go up more. I'm starting to freak out as a homeowner. And then they get all these different brochures from all these different people. And they're like, oh my gosh, this guy says it's this. This guy says it's that. It's hard to stop a what? It's like, okay, all these things create confusion for them. It's a highly emotional decision. Again, if we wait for it to break, it's even higher from an emotional standpoint. I promise you, they didn't wake up this morning wanting to buy an air conditioning system, right? They didn't. They didn't want to, they didn't wake up at 12 degrees and say, oh my God, I think I should buy a furnace now. No, 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 no. They aren't thinking that way. They're not dreaming. This is an investment that people don't typically dream about in advance, right? It's not like buying a new car, or a new snowmobile, or a new boat. It's not like that. It's buying something that you must have. And it's expensive as crap, right? It's just expensive. And they also have that low trust thing. Remember what I was talking about when they see those contractors on the TV that are ripping people off? Or they hear stories from their friend at church, or they hear it on the soccer field or in the hockey game that they're like, I had this guy, man, and I gave him $5,000 down and I hadn't heard from him since. Well, you just got beat up, right? You didn't do your due diligence as a homeowner. I absolutely understand that. So they don't trust us, which again, to reduce the stress, do business with people that already know you. Maintenance agreement customers. That's why we had a stress-free, mostly work environment in our business, is because most of our customers were already family and friends as far as we were concerned. They knew who we were, they knew how we worked, we knew who they were, we knew how they paid, right? We knew what was important to them because we have a long-term relationship with them. So our trust level was higher to begin with. And think about this, if you're in sales and you get a lead that is a referral from a good customer, I'd rather run that lead than 10 web generated marketing leads, because I know I got an 80% chance I'm going to get this one. I only got a 30% chance of getting these, right? And this person that trusts me is going to trust my recommendations too. They're going to actually allow me to design a system that I would put in my grandmother's house, assuming money was no object, right? I'm going to design a system that fits their complete needs, not just short term, but long term needs. And too many options. You think about it. I got to repair. I got to replace. I got good, better, best. I got all these accessory items you're starting to talk to me about. I got these different controls. I don't even know what you're talking about, right? As a homeowner, I'm freaking out. I'm like, what in the heck? They're looking through pages of stuff and they're just saying, help me out. I am, I am absolutely not understanding what I'm looking at. And there is no clear decision framework. This really isn't just a money decision. This is a big decision for homeowners, and one that can cost tens of thousands of dollars. And they don't want to make a mistake. I mean, ultimately, they don't want to make a mistake. So what is the psychology of this whole thing? What is this stress-free selling all about? Well, they definitely don't always want the cheapest item option. I know this to be true because I offered options even back in the 90s. I offered options on a regular basis, and the majority of time, the customer did not choose our least expensive option. The vast majority of the time, they did not choose our least expensive option. Now, if all you give is your least expensive option, that's called ultimatum pricing. That's called take it or leave it pricing. Not very attractive, and that actually forces customers to go shopping. A lot of folks in this industry don't recognize the fact that low bid is not the best approach. They think because the customer said, well, your price was too high, I went with another guy. Well, I know customers also lie because I've experienced it myself. I had a customer that was not actually one of our maintenance agreement customers. They were referred by one of our maintenance agreement customers that lived next door. And they chose us over their long-term guy who was basically just he was just a repair tech. I mean, it was a one trucker in the market in a good neighborhood, really good neighborhood. But that one trucker, all he ever did was like put gas in the unit, is what he called it. I'm putting gas in the unit, keep it cool this summer, Miss Smith. I'm gonna keep this thing running for you. Right. Well, obviously it had a refrigerant leak for years, and she had to gas it up each summer. Right. She thought that the gas was a consumable, that you had to refill it every year because that was her experience with, I'll call him Bubba. All right. And Bubba, when it came time to replace the unit finally died. And she got a price from Bubba. And then she got a recommendation from her next door neighbor. She said, that seems way too low to do what you need to do. I think you ought to call Holt Service Company. You may not like the answer they give you from a price standpoint, but I promise you, my house is way more comfortable and my power bills are way lower. And the dust problem I had in my home has been fixed. And Mrs. Smith said, I'm going to call those guys right now. So I was the sales guy. I went in there, I looked around, I asked some questions. And one of the most important questions I asked was, Mrs. Smith, do you ever have any large group gatherings in your home? And she said, yeah, as a matter of fact, I do. Every Sunday afternoon, we do an ancient book study with a bunch of little old ladies. I got about 15 or 16 little old ladies that sit in this living room that didn't look like it was seating. There was no seating for 15 or 16 people. She had some plastic fold up chairs in the back, right? She would put those chairs out and they'd have a little book study on Sunday afternoons. Well, guess what? When I asked her this question, and she said, yeah, I got 15 or 16 people in this room, and it is hot as rip. I've got a couple of box fans that I bring in here to try to keep it cool during the summer. I'm in Columbus, Georgia. Our average summer temperature is 95 degrees Fahrenheit. That's hot. And we got high humidity. Well, and her living room windows faced west, and it was the afternoon sun beating down on these little old ladies in their little ancient book study. Well, guess what? When I asked her if I could solve that problem for you by putting a thermostat in this room, would you be interested? You can put a thermostat in here? Yeah. How many thermostats can I have? I said, well, how many would you like? Right. She understood that. She understood the control. That's the only thing about her unit she understood is the thermostat. Right. And it happened to be one of those good old fashioned round ones, right? The old Honeywell T87F. I changed a lot of those out in my life. The crazy thing is by just asking the right questions, it turned into a $13,500 job in 19, probably 92 or three. Bubba's price was 3,500. When Bubba encountered me at the local trade association meeting that month, we had dinner meetings. He came over to me, man, I got a bone to pick with you. I said, what's that? He said, Mrs. Smith. I said, yeah, yeah, nice lady. He said, well, she told me she got a better price from you. I can't believe you could do that job for less than $3,500. I said, no, there's no way we could have done that job for less than $3,500. Was that your price? He said, yeah. I said, yeah. He said, well, what was your price? I said, $13,500. His eyes got big. He's like, you got to be kidding me. She told me she got a better price from you. I said, well, actually, she got the best price from us. So we had a good, better, best. She got the best price from us, which included zoning. Oh, she didn't say anything about she wanted zoning. I said, you didn't ask the right questions. How are you going to handle all those little old ladies in the front room every Sunday afternoon that were burning up during the summer? Well, I didn't know anything about that. I said, you didn't ask the right questions, right? So understand the psychology of stress-free selling is not to be a super salesperson, it's to be a super consultant, to understand what's really going on with that customer. So that's where also the power of structured choices come in. I mentioned good, better, best, right? So we used a good, better, best type of an approach that the Mac Daddy one, the top line dude, didn't get picked all the time, but because it was on the menu, it did get picked. The lowest, least cost option, it didn't get picked all the time. It did get picked depending on the situation. Like, let's say they're moving out of their house and they just need to get the system updated so that they can sell their house easier because it'll be fresh equipment instead of course, they're not getting the full benefit that they would get if they were putting in the top dog deal, but the top dog deal isn't going to help them sell their house anymore, any better, probably. So we did sell some base systems. The majority of our systems were right in the middle, right? It was the simple decision to go to the middle, not too high, not too low, just right, right? And so the power of structured choices is another way to reduce stress because when you lay your options out, just like when you go to a restaurant, I mean, they don't sit there and say, you look like, you look like peanut butter and jelly and milk. That's what we're gonna feed you today. And you're like, I came here for a steak, baked potato, and salad. It's like something's, we're not jiving here. Well, the structured choice is like using a menu in a restaurant where here's the choices that you have. Doesn't mean that's the only thing you can do because they'll customize it for you most of the time in some restaurants anyway. And the same is true from an HVAC standpoint. You can create a structured choice menu that makes it easy for the homeowner to see what options are there. They don't have to pick any of them, right? But if you give them choices, guess what they don't have to do? If they were thinking they needed to get three prices, well, why can't you give them all three? Why can't you give them three views of their problem financially? That's really what it comes down to. Three different financial levels of investment that they can choose from. Today, I probably use four, maybe five or six. I'd give them some choices to consider. Too many is too many, right? And I'll show you an example of one here in just a minute. But here's the real kicker. Monthly payments make things a whole lot easier for the homeowner. Now, I know if you haven't really studied this part of the sales process well, the first thing you think about is, oh my God, do you know what those dealer fees are for those monthly payment options? Yeah, I do. I used to pay them in the 90s. So I do know that they can be pretty steep depending on the options. Well, as an owner, I get to choose which options I'm going to offer, right? Now, get this question all the time from contractors. David, if you were setting up your finance programs, which loans would you choose to offer to customers? I said, it's a real simple answer. The ones that get customers to say yes. Huh? Well, of course, no, not of course. Think about it. What most contractors think about is I'm just going to use the ones that are no dealer fees. And it's okay to offer the no dealer fee ones, but guess what? The no dealer fee ones those no dealer fee finance options cost the homeowner more on a monthly payment. If we're trying to keep monthly payments low, figure out which ones get them the monthly payments as low as possible. And whatever the dealer fee is, make sure that's incorporated into your retail price. And you don't have to put the whole amount in. There's a whole different training on that. We'll be talking about that in an upcoming webinar, on proper pricing and so forth. But the reality is, let's say, I don't know, let's say just to make the math easy, it's 10% for one of the best loans. 10% cost you 10% of a $10,000 job. Just to make the math easy. So I got $1,000 for the dealer fee. Okay. What percentage of your customers use the monthly payment? Let's say it's 50%. So now instead of $1,000 for the job, what if I take 500 and put it on everybody's job? So the people who pay me cash are helping to make the guy who's going to pay the that use the finance program is going to make it easier for them to afford because it's only $500 on everybody. What if it's only 2 out of 10? Well, now we're talking about $200. It's called average cost of credit. If you average your cost of credit across all your jobs, it's just a little bit that gets spread across everybody, and that's okay. Customers pay for everything. If they don't, it comes out of your pocket. So you got to make sure you make it simple. So how's this? There's a framework here that's involved. How does this work? Well, first you got to diagnose what their real problem is. Now, just because the equipment's broke, I mean, that might be the initial reason for your call if that's what you've waited on. But we got to really figure out what the real problem is. Mrs. Smith with those ladies in the front room, guess what? Her problem was her system was incapable of keeping 15 to 16 little old ladies comfortable on Sunday afternoons with a west facing window. Everybody else would probably just say, put some blinds up there, put some shade, grow a tree. It's like, we can overcome that. We can do that. Now, it's a good idea to do those things too. But I can make the system do what it needs to do if I know what the problem is, right? If I don't know what the real problem is, how can I solve it? One of the greatest testimonials that we had in our business was from an older couple, been living in the same house for years, had been using other contractors for years. In fact, they were probably living 2 blocks behind our best competitor. And when I say best competitor, I'm talking about one that was as close to us as we could be. We would rather compete with them than, Bubba at the low end. So they were just a couple blocks from there, and they actually used them in the past. They called us because we had educated their neighborhood about our ability to solve dust problems in people's homes. We didn't talk about selling air conditioners. We said, do you have a dust problem in your home? We can resolve that for you. We sent out a simple postcard that made that statement throughout that neighborhood. They called up, went over there, figured out what was going on, redesigned some system stuff. It was mostly ductwork related. Redesigned some system stuff. While we were there, we upgraded their equipment. They did not call to get their equipment upgraded. While we were there, we upgraded their equipment. We got a testimonial that went something like this. For over 20 years, our family has lived with a dust problem in our home. We called on others to look into it, but their attempts have been unsuccessful. I can finally say that thanks to your company, we are now free of the situation. Our house is much cleaner, and my wife doesn't have to dust the furniture every day. Right. That didn't say anything about the new equipment we put in. That didn't say anything about we also are more comfortable. Our power bills went down and all that. The dust was the problem. That was the trigger that caused them to call us, number one, but also the reason they chose us because they had called on others to fix it, but their attempts had been unsuccessful. They had put gimmicks. Oh, we put in this new filter. They put a new filter in and the dust got worse. Probably didn't understand static pressure when they did the new filter. Probably the guy that put it in probably didn't understand static pressure. Probably didn't understand that the return duct system, it was a filter grill type situation. The duct system was leaking like a tent. And the more pressure you put on it, the more dust it was sucking in from under the house. And it's like, okay, this is not hard, but you have to know how to solve the problem. So step one to reducing stress in really any sales environment is fully understand what the real problem is. Then step two is present clear bundled options. They don't need to know what the price of the thermostat is, what the air filter is. Mr. In this case, that would have been, golly, I can't think of their name now. I have to go to my book. I've got a printed copy. um, Dang it. We'll just call him Mr. Jones. So what Mr. Jones did not see is he did not see we're going to use this much duct work. We're going to use that. We didn't itemize everything and put a price next to it. We said for only I don't remember what the number was. We'll just say $7,500. For only $7,500, we're going to solve this dust problem and we're going to upgrade your air conditioner at the same time. How's that sound? So man, when can you get started? I mean, think about this. If you go out and you want to buy a Ford F-150, you don't sit there and look at this laundry list and say lug nuts, $1.73 each or whatever, right? You say, I want a Ford F-150, King Ranch, blah, blah, this is what I'm going to get. I don't look at all that. I look at what's the total price and what's the monthly payment, all right? So presenting bundled options makes it easier and stress-free for your customer to say, wow, now I know they're out there. There's engineers that say, I've got to see all the time and all the material. I gotta pick on everything. You know what? Those are not my customers. I don't have time for them. Just, sometimes we're just not the right company for every customer. It sounds like we're not the right company for you, Mr. Eddie, the engineer. Huh? I said, you don't buy anything else this way. Why are you asking me to give you a line item blow by blow? It's going to take me 12 minutes to put this in, and it's going to be $14 of material, and I'm going to charge you $400 for it. Why do I need to break that down in a time and material? Oh, it's got to be treated fairly. Okay. Yeah, we're going to treat you fairly, period. We'll make sure it does what it says it's going to do. We're going to stand by. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. I don't have time for those people. If they want to nickel and dime me to death, I got no time, and they're always they always wind up being your worst customers anyway. So I'll let our competition do business with them. I put them in my customer relocation program. I also have an employee relocation program for homeowner or customers for contractor employees like service techs that don't follow the rules. They're in the employee relocation program. So step three is use monthly payments instead of job price, right? We want to talk about monthly investment. Your monthly investment is. So, what is monthly investment? There's another way people talk about it as net monthly investment. Well, net monthly investment is the monthly payment minus your energy savings when you put this new system in. Now, I got documented evidence from years and years and years of doing this. When you do it right, it's very easy to save 10, 20, 30%, up to 50 plus percent of power bills for the heating and cooling portion of their power bill. It's very easy to document that and to prove it to them. In fact, I've got documented proof that I just updated mine. I yanked out, my house was built in 2004. I yanked out two split heat pumps, two ducted split heat pumps, 5 tons worth total, yanked all of it out, redesigned the duct work, went back in with a 3-ton inverter based variable speed zoned system, got three thermostats, got a big old air cleaner, got fresh air ventilation coming in, all that. Much more comfortable in the house, dust problem gone, utility bills cut in half. Our highest power bill last summer, was 2 summers ago, was over $600 US, over $600. The same exact time frame, so this the same month, which happens to be July, that's our hot month here. In July, the same year, a year later, 300. It's over 600 and it was 300. Good investment, right? 50% reduction in utility costs for heating and cooling. Well, in this case, cooling my house better than it ever has been. It was never as comfortable as it is right now. So, is that a good investment? Well, of course it is. We can't do that by just saying, yeah, here's my low price, because zoning doesn't come with a low price. Sorry. So I talked about a menu. Here's an example of how you might do it and how simple this can be, because confidence in presenting your offer goes a long way towards reducing stress for the homeowner. So if you look at this, let's say that in this case, I've got a 3-ton hybrid cooling and heating system. So I got a heat pump with a gas system, right? So I got a gas furnace with a heat pump. You guys are in cold climate, so I mean, I'm sure that's an option up there that you guys want to deal with. And it's the cold climate heat pumps are coming along; they're getting much better. But there's still a lot of homeowners that love to have that gas as their backup. So this is a hybrid system. Just kind of mapped it out real quick. If you're confident in your presentation, you'd be able to just lay this in front of the customer and say, "Mr. and Mrs. Smith, based on my evaluation of your home, this is the right size and type of equipment to properly heat and cool your house. I'll let you take a look at this page and I'll answer any questions you have." And then zip it, says the guy who's just been talking for 45 minutes without taking a break.
We're right
Hey, what are
on
you
time.
laughing at?
You said you take questions at 12:45, and here we are. So I appreciate your punctuality. That's
You
great.
bet.
So as he said, we got some time for questions. You can leave them in the chat here. We've got a Q&A button. He is the man to ask. So let's make best use of his time if you want to do that. Now, do you have any contact information or any other resources people can? There it is.
We do. There it is. So here's some implementation tips. And this is important. You need to have the resources. In fact, let me back up one page. Plan
Mm,
statements, responses, like I just said, the plan statement of based on my evaluation of your home, this is the right size and type of equipment to properly heat and cool your house. I'll let you take a look at this page and answer any questions you have. That's a plan statement. All right. If you've got plan statements and responses, scripts, and I hate scripts, right? But when you say it enough times, it doesn't sound like a script anymore. Just like I didn't sound like a script when I just said, based on my evaluation of your home, this is the right size and type of equipment. It doesn't sound like a script because I'm confident that it is, based on my evaluation, the right size and type, and I can show them. So practicing with your team is critical. Contractor University, which I'm the director of education and coaching for Contractor University, has tons of those types of resources available to you. And HRAI and EGIA that I work for has partnered up to where you guys can take a look at Contractor University, where all those scripts exist and a whole lot more recorded content in sales, in administrative stuff, in inventory management, in hiring, recruiting, training, all the different subjects that are non-technical. All the non-technical subjects that you run into as a contractor, we've got it on Contractor University. You guys can get a free 10-day trial. You can scan that QR code, or you can go to mycontractoruniversity.com/HRAI. Make sure you put the slash HRAI. That'll take you to that page that you see on the left right there, and you'll have access to more resources than you need right now, but there'll be the other ones that you don't need right now will be available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So now we're ready for good questions.
Wonderful. And you know what? Maybe you can send me that slide or that QR code.
Sure.
I can just email everyone who registered today,
Absolutely.
and then we'll send that out after the fact. But obviously, everyone knows everything they need to know about sales. They're all masters, so there's no questions, is what I'm taking
What?
away.
That's just amazing. How can that be? Now,
Or
it's
people are just dashing out to get more lunch. But that was a fantastic presentation. A lot of great information. That is going to be up forever on HRAI's YouTube page. We're going to share that in our newsletter and whatnot. So those who didn't have a chance, maybe they're out there making sales right now, but they'll have a chance to review this.
lunchtime is a great time to make sales, I can tell you.
There you go. I think we're gonna cut her there then. Thank you so much, Dave. Now you're back in I think a month.
Yeah, actually, we've got 5 different webinars in this series. I am
Yeah.
the opening and the closing, but I've got next month is going to be Bob Larkin, who is another former contractor, also a former territory manager. So he's worked on both sides of the fence in the HVAC industry. He's going to be talking about the top 10 keys to high performance results in your business. And then Joel Torma, another former contractor who works with us as a coach. He's a business coach. In fact, that's part of another benefit of Contractor University is we have business coaches that have sat in your chair that
Mhm.
have actually done this work. Joel actually was a service technician as well. I never was. I was a business owner, manager, sales guy. And the same kind of really well, actually, Bob actually installed and did stuff. But Joel's going to be talking about, and I don't remember exactly which topic he's handling, but Joel's going to be talking about another important topic in the series. And then following Joel will be John Wynn, Winn. In fact, John Wynn just did a presentation at CMPX. Was that just last
Oh,
week? I think that was just last week or
yeah,
week
I was
before
there.
last.
Yeah,
Yep.
great
Okay,
show.
good. Yep. So John Wynn was there at the CMPX event doing a presentation called Wrenches to Wealth. And that went very well, according to him. I was actually in Phoenix while he was in Toronto. And then after he's done, then I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about, and I don't remember what it is. We've got 5 that are coming, but it's already on the HRAI calendar. So you can get to the HRAI calendar and look and see for the events. You'll see a description of what each of the workshops that we have coming up. And we're just happy to help you guys out. So appreciate the opportunity.
And I appreciate being here. The website you mentioned, hrai.ca/events. You'll see all the webinars listed there, and it's just a one click to register. All right. See you in a month. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thanks, Matthew.
Take it easy.